طيب بسم الله الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين له النعمة وله الفضل وله الثناء الحسن والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. I ask Allah the Exalted to grant us all the sincerest of intentions, the ability to understand and to do good, and the reward in the hereafter. Thereafter, I remind each and every one of us to regularly remind themselves about their, if you like, weaknesses and limitations, and our need for guidance, and to remind one another that Allah alone is the one who is free of need. As for each and every one of us, our needs are many. As for Allah, He is free of need. Allah is not benefited by any good deed that we do, and He is not harmed by any act of disobedience that we commit. If we do good, we benefit ourselves, and if we do bad, we ultimately harm ourselves. Allah is not in need of our good deeds and is not harmed by our disobedience. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people, they end up being unmindful of this fact, and as a result of which, and you need to be reminded regularly, myself included. And when I started to saying what I just said, I said I want to remind myself of something. So just to help correct my intention and get my focus a bit better. Particularly, I didn't get to rest today. So let's see. MashaAllah. So yeah, remind Allah is not benefited by any good deed done by anyone, and is not harmed by any disobedience committed by anyone. Subhanah. Thereafter, we were reviewing together some rules pertaining how to protect the most precious thing that any one of us has, and that is our iman. There is nothing more precious that can be granted to any human being or jinn for that matter, more precious than iman. There are many things that people, if you like, put a value on, they treasure, from having good health to having wealth to having children and the like. But as has been mentioned many times over now, there is nothing more precious actually that any one of us can possess than the blessings of iman. What I would just again remind myself and others about is how much effort do we put to preserve other things that we have, like our wealth and our health. What do we do for our children? How much time and energy we put into them? And what are we doing to actually support the religion, to defend the religion, which can only be done through knowledge. ultimately, especially nowadays, when ignorance is widespread, as well as many different types of injustices. So, protecting one's iman, the way to do that is to recognize what is it that invalidates iman, so that you can actively avoid it, put effort to avoid it. Just as the scholar said, the one who does not know evil is more likely to fall into it. If you don't know what is bad, you're more likely just to slip into it passively. Sometimes just you're with your friends and they're just talking, and next thing you know, you start to say things that might be even transgressing the bounds of the religion. A person can become a Muslim by saying one statement, but likewise, you can actually become a non-Muslim by saying just one statement. This is not a privilege that is granted to a person that once you have it, that's it, it's yours for life. It's not like that. You might even be born into a Muslim household, and then because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of care, you might end up saying, doing, and believing things that take you out of Islam without you even realizing it. But as for the one who has knowledge, generally they don't slip up like that. And if they do, they know that this is something kufr. I need to repent from it. This took me out of Islam and I need to repent from it. Knowledge gives you that. So we were reviewing together, I remember correctly, some examples of, we said that kufr is that which takes away the most precious thing it possesses. A person, for example, if there was a female who did not wear a headscarf and she didn't pray, or there was a guy, a male, who drank alcohol, these individuals be still potentially considered Muslims, but sinful Muslims. Because the Muslims in general are of these two categories: Muslims that are considered sinful and those that are considered pious, i.e., those that are not known to be committing enormous sins or small sins again and again, in a way that their small sins get to a number that's higher than their good deeds. In general, this is how you find it. Muslims are either considered as being pious, at least outwardly pious, and those are considered as sinful. Committing a sin does not make you into a non-Muslim. If a person did not pray, they did not fast, of course this is something bad. This is not something good. Disobeying Allah is not a good matter. However, it doesn't make you into a non-Muslim. Some people, they don't understand this very basic consideration. Once this person was one of those, I don't know what you call them, like a live chat show type of thing, and they discuss sometimes different topics. You have the audience there and so on. And there was a person who said he was a Muslim, but he said he was a homosexual. And somebody in the audience, a female, she was wearing a hijab. She said something very dangerous. She was saying to him, look, you've got a choice. Either you are a Muslim or you're a non-Muslim. If you choose homosexuality, then you can't be a Muslim. So just leave Islam. She said to him, leave Islam. If you want to go that way, okay, do that, but then leave Islam. Telling somebody to leave Islam is kufr, is blasphemy. Of course, any committing zina, as I said, and homosexuality and the like, in Islam, these are considered as enormous sins. They're not even small sins. But it would be better for a person to be an enormous sinner than to actually be a kafir. That's a fact. That's a fact. For more than one reason, you can look at this issue. For one, the one who believes in Allah, if they're committing sins, they still have something in their heart about repenting, seeking forgiveness from Allah, the one that they disobeyed. But if they don't even believe in Allah, for them it's like nothing. Anything wrong that they do, they could do it again and again, but they have no concept of repenting to Allah. So a person, if they commit sins, then they should be directed to repent. That's true. And you use wisdom in that to try to guide them to say, do what's better for your own hereafter. Allah knows about what you do in public and private. But you don't direct people to commit kufr. Kufr is the greatest sin that a person can commit. As for the kafir who does some deeds that are broadly considered good, like helping a poor person, doing certain other things of that type, then God will reward them in this life for that which they did. God rewards people like that in this life for that which they did. As for in the hereafter, then there is nothing for them. Okay, there is nothing for them. If you don't believe in Allah, you don't believe even in the last day, on the day of judgment, you will not be rewarded on that day. Allah will not reward those people. Rather, they got what they got then in this life. Anyway, so to continue this review, we said that among the beliefs that would make a person into a non-Muslim is to believe about Allah that which He is not by consensus. All of the Muslims, they agree that certain things are not befitting of God. Okay? Like what? Like having a size, a shape, a limit, defects, having a beginning, having an ending, having a son, having a daughter, having a husband, a wife, a mother or a father. In essence, anything that entails likening Allah to the creation or resembling Allah to the creation. One of the scholars of the past called Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, he lived about 1,000 years ago. He said, attribute to Allah, the Creator, any attribute among the attributes of the creation is like insulting Allah. And how would it not be? Creation by definition means that which has a beginning, which therefore means what? That which is limited. It has a limit. It has a weakness. To say about the one that is eternal and everlasting, without beginning and without end, free of limits and defects, that they are limited and defective and weak and so on else, this is an insult for Allah. And this is just as was said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari and others, the Qudsi hadith. Allah revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Yashtumun ibnu Adam, shatmuhu iyaya, qawluhu inna li walada." That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he received by revelation, but not revelation that is a part of the Quran. The Quran was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a very specific way, and he was informed this is a part of the Quran. He knew what he was given as a part of the Quran. But Jibril, the angel Gabriel, would come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with other advices and other commands and the like. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would also convey them. But those others, it was clear they are not a part of the Quran. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was informed that Allah revealed that human beings, that is some human beings, they insult me, I insult Allah. And what insult is it that they say about Allah? It is their saying that Allah has a son. To say about a human being that they have a son, this is not considered as an insult. The idea of having a son, it's not an insult for human beings. It's something that applies. Even if you said it about somebody mistakenly, that you said, oh, is he your son? And they say, no, I don't have a son, for example. They wouldn't consider that you ended up saying something to insult me. But to say that about Allah, it's an insult. Actually, it's like the person cursed God to say that he has a son. God is free of sons and daughters for that matter. God is free of every single human attribute. God is free of anything that is specific to the creation. Subhana, the exalted. So therefore, from this it would be known that if anybody believed that God is a body of light, okay, however amazing, or a soul, or a spirit, or some sort of cloud, or something else that like the sun, or like the sun, whether they believed God is a body that you can physically grab hold of in your hands like me and you, or like an angel that you can't physically grab hold of their bodies. In both cases, such a person would be judged as a kafir for holding a kufr belief, even if they judged themselves to be what? Muslims. Even if they thought about themselves, we are Muslims. That alone is not enough. As I said before, Christians, don't they judge themselves as believers? They do. Christians don't judge themselves as non-believers. The idol worshippers that make idols with their own hands, they might make an idol out of gold decorated with diamonds. Do they think that they are doing something bad by that? The answer is no. They think they are doing something good. Through this idol, they think we'll get benefit. Just thinking that what you're doing is good, this alone is not enough. Even if you are a Muslim. Aren't there people who claim to be Muslims who strap explosives to themselves and they kill themselves and others? There are. They don't think they're doing something bad. In fact, they think they're going to paradise through this act, which is an enormous sin, at the very least deserving of punishment in hellfire. Killing yourself, this is an enormous sin. It's not a light sin. And then they kill many others in the process. Even in these countries like Iraq and so on, there's more Muslims they kill through this route than non-Muslims. Even then, killing yourself, even if you're killing non-Muslims in this way, this is not something permissible in the religion, even if you think that what you're doing is something good. In fact, most people who commit kufr and many types of evil. Many times they don't judge that what they are doing is wrong. Many times they think it's their right. We are, they might say, a superior race, and we are what is rightful. And if Hitler and these types of tyrants of the past did not believe about themselves that we are committing evil. If anything, they believed we are ridding the world of evil, and we are doing that which is rightful for us. Again, just that thinking alone doesn't save a person. Likewise for a Muslim. Muslim, it's not enough for them just to say, I'm born into a Muslim family. I don't know, I speak a certain language, my name is such and such, and I dress a certain way. That alone is not enough. That alone is not enough. There has to be more than that. And the starting essence and the base of that is the correct belief. The correct belief in Allah and His Prophet. So anybody who believes that Allah is a body, has a form or an image, or He sits, or has a size, shape, color, or limit, or that they believe that God is attributed with a lack of knowledge, even about one thing, or they believe in the possibility of this. They say it's possible, or they doubt about it. They say maybe. They say maybe God is ignorant. Maybe God is a body, or has a size or a shape, or has a disability, or is in need. Maybe they say He is unjust. All of that would take a person out of Islam, even if they didn't realize that, even if they don't want that for themselves. As I said, a Christian might go to church on a Sunday. What do they do there? Seeking what? Hellfire? No. They go there seeking paradise. But that alone is not enough. That alone is not enough. As I said, there were many, many deviant people of the past. Hitler being one classical example in our, let's say, relative era, the recent century. He didn't think I'm doing something evil. He thought he's ridding the world of evil. He thought he has a right. He is part of a superior race, and they have a right to do what they are doing. But which person nowadays, generally speaking, Muslim or non-Muslim, would say that, okay, that excuses him for what he did. What we are saying here is not therefore anything that calls to extremism or violence. This is fact. This is fact. We're just being straight up. Some people go like this and that with the truth. We're just being straight up with the truth. Atheists believe they are right. Right? And says, قُلْ هَاتُوا إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to those people like the Christian and Jews who say we are right, we are the people of paradise, say to them, bring your proof to support that which you say. In other words, if you're truthful, then back it up with evidence. The truth is stronger than falsehood. Making the claim to be upon the truth, that alone is not enough. What matters is who's got the proof to support that which they say. And this applies to Muslims, those who profess Islam. And there are many different types of groups. When you look in amongst the Muslims, aren't there many groups? This group says we are right. That group says we are right. That group says they are right. We say we are right. In that regard, you find that all of us saying we are right, we are right. We try to give them our take on it. That you find. What matters is who's got the proof to support that which they say. That's what it comes down to. Not just emotionality and blind followership. Blind followership is dispraised in the Quran. We are upon this because our parents were upon it. Okay. They might have been right and they might have been wrong. That's not any the defining point, just because they were upon it. To belie any prophet from among the prophets of Allah, i.e. to claim that a prophet is mistaken in anything that they conveyed of the rules of the religion. This means that is to claim as false or incorrect what the Prophet ﷺ told us, whether it is in regards to a rule of the religion or something that happened or will happen. These three things in general, if it is confirmed that a prophet said them, for you to claim that this is incorrect, this is like as though you're saying the prophet is a liar, or that he is not actually a messenger of God. It's like that. No Muslim would say that. And if they did, then they're not a Muslim anymore. That's the point. No Muslim would say God is wrong or mistaken or defective or ignorant and the like. What if they did? Then they're no longer a Muslim. That's the point. They've committed the utmost transgression. Some people, when they learn about these rules, just be cautious, because they hear about it for the first time. Next thing you know, almost every wrong thing is a kufr, is a kufr. No. Kufr is something very clear. It's what makes you into a non-Muslim. It is any belief or action or saying that makes you into a non-Muslim. Such as what? Such as insulting God. Such as claiming that God or his prophet are liars, for example. Like that. And we'll explain more as we go through these lessons. It'll become clearer and clearer what this and what is actually kufr. Insha'Allah. So, as I was saying, so these three things. So, if it's a rule of the religion and it's confirmed, and then you still go against it, for example, it is confirmed that drinking alcohol is sinful. If you say it is not sinful, you are told the Prophet ﷺ said it is sinful, and you say it is not sinful. It's as though you're saying the Prophet made a mistake, as though you're saying the Prophet was wrong. ﷺ. No Muslim would say that, and if they did, then they're not a Muslim. They become a non-Muslim now. As simple as that. However, if you drink alcohol, believing it is sinful, then you are what? A sinful Muslim. It's not to make light of it. It's an enormous sin. Okay? It's an enormous sin, deserving of punishment in hellfire. They don't repent and they die like that. Then in the hereafter, if Allah doesn't forgive them by His mercy, they actually deserve punishment in hellfire for a period of time, though. A set, limited period of time. They won't remain forever in hellfire. Is that clear? Is everybody following that? Any questions up to there about what I've said? Okay, yes. About what I've said. All right. Good. So, the first one, as I think about the rule of the religion. The second one, if the Prophet ﷺ informed us, explain what we mean by informed us in a second to be more clear about it, about to believe in that. For example, the Prophet ﷺ informed us that before him there was a prophet called Isa, who people nowadays refer to as Jesus in English, and he was born to a lady called Maryam, and she gave birth to him without ever having an unlawful relationship with a male, or even a lawful relationship with a male. was a virgin. Allah created Isa as a sign of his power. Just as he created Adam without a mother and without a father. God created Isa without a father. Nothing complex in that for the one who believes that God created Adam. Some Christians, they said to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so tell us then, according to you, who would be the father of Jesus then? If you're not accepting it to be God. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to them, Isa, Jesus, and Adam, they have a similarity. God created Adam without a mother and without a father. God created Jesus without a father. He doesn't have a father. Where is the difficulty for you? You know this. You believe Adam was created without a mother and father. So where is the difficulty for you in this regard? This is according to what you accept. I mean, without mother and father should be more like, wow, without a mother, without a father. He has a mother. There is nothing that is difficult for Allah, the Exalted. Whatever He has eternally willed to be, it occurs at the time and in the place that He eternally willed for it to be. No one can change or stop that. Lady Maryam, when she was giving birth, what did she say? She said, I wish I died before this. And among the things was she didn't want to face the people who would say bad things about her. One point to stop that. No one can prevent that. So we believe in it. There is something confirmed. Now, if somebody says to you, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, before I came to you on this earth, I used to be this thing that lived in the sky, and I was this and that, and so on else, etc. And they tell you something that is not confirmed that he said it. It's not confirmed. Some people claim that that's what he said. And you say, look, I don't believe in that. That doesn't make you into a non-Muslim. Because the thing is not confirmed. You're not saying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mistaken. You're saying you, the one who says this about the Prophet, you are mistaken. The mistake is in you, or the one that you took this narration from. There is the mistake. But if the narration is confirmed that yes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this, then you need to believe in it. You can't actually reject that or doubt in it, because then it would be as though you're doubting in his truthfulness. It is like doubting in his prophethood and his messengership. And no Muslim would do that. And if they did, then they're not a Muslim. About things that would happen in the future, likewise, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us before the day of judgment, Isa, the son of Maryam. In English, you would say Jesus, the son of Mary. Or let's say some English-speaking people might say Jesus, the son of Mary. That he will descend from the sky back to the earth. And he will kill an individual who will be claiming to be the Messiah, claiming to be him, and claiming to be God on earth. Just as many Christians believe. Most Christians perhaps believe that. Jesus, they say, was God on earth. So he, the real Messiah, Al-Masih, not the Son of God, the son of Maryam, Mary, that this will happen in the future. So we believe in it. We believe in this. We don't doubt about that. We don't doubt about that. Is that clear? To degrade a prophet by attributing him with a defect or the attributes of the lowly people. And that is to degrade a prophet by attributing them with something that does not befit them. Then this is something that is actually kufr. Like, for example, to believe that a prophet used to commit zina, adultery, for example, or fornication, or to believe about a prophet that they were individuals who were upon kufr, or people who committed enormous sins or committed small sins that reflect a low character, like stealing one grape. And all of these would be attributing a prophet with something that does not befit them. How would it be? Somebody, they're committing kufr all their life. All of a sudden, they stand in front of the people and they say, kufr is something bad. People would say to them, yesterday you were doing it. Now you're telling us it's something bad. People would say, we don't really trust in your word. Yesterday you were upon this, and now you're upon this. How can we trust what you say? Prophets, that's not their situation. Another one is to believe that prophets were not intelligent, or to believe that they used to steal, because that would imply that the prophets are not trustworthy, and thus make one doubt about what they convey from Allah. How would you trust in what they are conveying if you actually believe they're not even really trustworthy? These are all examples of kufr beliefs. To intend to commit kufr in the near or distant future. Okay? If a person says, tomorrow I will commit kufr, this is kufr right now. And if, for example, if somebody said, tomorrow I'm going to insult God, what's the judgment? Kufr. Right now they become a kafir, even though they didn't insult God yet, and by statement, explicitly or directly, if you like. But by saying that, I will do this tomorrow, or even if they say, I'll do this after 1,000 years, and though they don't expect to live for 1,000 years, intending to commit kufr, having that intention in their heart, this is kufr immediately. This kufr that is residing in the heart. So it's considered as part of the kufr beliefs. And the same applies to hesitating about whether or not to commit kufr. If somebody says, shall I insult God or not? Okay. They say, shall I leave Islam or not? Shall I declare Islam as being the wrong religion or right religion? The prophets as being right or wrong? They hesitate about it. And they say, was the prophet truthful in what he conveyed about the past things? Shall I say that he was truthful or not truthful? They hesitate about it. They don't say it on their tongue, but that's what's in their heart. This would be kufr immediately. This would take them out of Islam immediately. Another example is to reject what is known to be a part of the religion. For example, to believe that it is not an obligation for female adults to cover their hair in public. If a female did not wear a headscarf, covering her hair in public, that is in front of other men, she's still a Muslim. Just that alone doesn't make you into a non-Muslim. She's still a Muslim. However, she would be a sinful Muslim for that. If she says this is not an obligation, knowing that the Prophet ﷺ said it is an obligation, knowing that this is what all of the Muslims believe, yani in general, it's not like they never heard, they just embraced Islam. Just yesterday they became a Muslim. And they think this is what, I don't know, Pakistani Muslims do. But it's not something that's a part of Islam. Or they think it's optional, it's recommended to do it, but you don't have to do it. Then what about their situation? They are wrong, but we don't judge them as a non-Muslim. Why? What's the difference between these two cases? We said if somebody believes that if a woman does not cover her hair in public, this is kufr. But we're giving now an exception to that. Somebody who just embraced Islam yesterday, she's a new Muslim. The reason is that why is it kufr? When we said that, because this is something all of the Muslims know, everybody knows it. So when she goes against it, it's as though she is saying Islam says it's an obligation for the woman to cover her hair in public, as is evidenced by this is what all the Muslims say, this is what the Prophet said. But they say, but I say it's not an obligation. Because they say we're living in modern times and whatever explanation they give. But they say, but nowadays I say otherwise. Even though they say the Prophet said it's an obligation, his companions said it's an obligation, and their followers said it's an obligation, and the Quran says it's an obligation, and it is confirmed, therefore, that in the Islamic rules it's an obligation. But this person, what do? They say, but I say it's not an obligation. And in that case, it's as though they are saying the Quran is wrong, the Prophet is wrong, okay, all of the Muslims are wrong except for them. And this is kufr. That's actually blasphemy. That takes you out of Islam. As for this one who embraced Islam yesterday, they think that the Prophet ﷺ taught us that for a woman to wear a headscarf in public is optional. Now that's a mistake. That's a mistake on this new Muslim's part, but that's what they think the Prophet taught. So they're not actually claiming the Prophet to be a liar. You see the difference? I'll repeat that again. The one who says all of the Muslims agree that the female needs to cover her head in public, or drinking alcohol is sinful. Even if you take that example, for men and women, drinking alcohol is sinful. They say all of the Muslims say that. Even if you go to the average non-Muslim and you say to the average non-Muslim nowadays, especially in the West, those who come across Muslims, maybe in some parts of the world, they probably wouldn't know this. In some parts of the world, there are some non-Muslims who think Muslims are these people who worship a man called Muhammad. That's what some of them think. Some of them think other strange things about Islam and Muslims. But here, like in the UK, typically you won't find to that extent usually. So even a non-Muslim, if you ask them, are you aware that Muslims don't drink alcohol? They don't eat pork? The average non-Muslim knows it. How about the Muslim? The Muslims in general know it. Whether you are considered a scholar or just a person who is a non-scholar, like the rest of us, all of our situation is like that. So it's known drinking alcohol is haram, it's sinful, it's not permissible. What if a person just embraced Islam yesterday and they never heard what the Muslims say about alcohol? They believe in God, that He exists without beginning and without an ending, does not resemble the creation. They believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he was a prophet of God. He was truthful and trustworthy, knowledgeable and intelligent. Okay, they believe in that. However, they think the Prophet taught it's permissible to drink alcohol. And that's a mistake. They are wrong in their thinking and they need to be corrected, but they are still judged as a Muslim, because their saying does not equate to saying the Prophet is wrong or a liar. If it did, then what would be the judgment? They would be judged as a kafir. Is that case clear up to there? Any questions on that point? Okay. Yes. Yes. Or to believe that it is not good to perform the sunnah prayers. Let's take that example. Sunnah prayers, also known as the rawatib of the prayer. Like, for example, 2 sunnah rak'ahs before the fard rak'ahs of Fajr, for example. Or 2 sunnah rak'ahs after the 4 fard rak'ahs of Dhuhr, for example. This is are you sinful? The answer is no. Yes, you miss out on a lot of reward. The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam said the 2 rak'ahs before Al-Fajr are worth more than this whole world and what's in it. Narrated by Al-Bukhari. The 2 rak'ahs before Fajr are worth more than this whole world and what's in it. One of us was told that you pray these 2 rak'ahs in the morning, you'll get £1 million. Which one of us would miss it? I don't think I would. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it's worth more than this whole world and what's in it. Better than. That is, it's better than. More beneficial. Yani the dunya issues. Those 2 rak'ahs are more precious. So we believe in that. Okay, but what if you don't do those 2 sunnah rak'ahs? Do you become a non-Muslim? The answer is no. You're still a Muslim. You're not even sinful in that scenario. You're just missing out upon a certain reward, a big reward, but you miss out on it. Now, what if somebody said, the Prophet said these are good and recommended to perform, rewardable, but I say they are bad. They are not recommended. They are not rewardable. What's the judgment? This would be kufr. Why? Because this statement is as though you said the Prophet is wrong or mistaken. It equates to that. The meaning is entailed. Let me give you another example. If somebody said, such and such person, Bakr, walked from this wall, okay, which is what, which direction? Who knows the bearings? This wall, like that. West, okay, north is that way, south that way, okay. So if they walk from this western wall to that eastern wall over there, they walked, okay. Even though, when somebody asks you, did Bakr move? You're going to say yes. Even though the one who was telling you about this issue, they said Bakr walked, from the western wall, I don't know, 20, 30 yards to the eastern wall. Somebody asks you, did they move? You say yes. How are you saying yes when that person who was telling you about what Bakr didn't tell you that they moved? It's understood, it's entailed as part of that. Because when they said they walked, you understand this also means moved. You follow that? Okay. So some statements, even if they didn't say those words, okay, they are understood from that statement. They equate that. If somebody says, God has a son, even if they didn't say that God is like the creation, that's what that statement means. You understand that? If they say God has a beginning, they are saying that he is in need, even if they didn't say he is in need. Some statements they follow on. They're necessarily included in what that person said. Okay, is that clear? Right. If somebody says drinking alcohol is permissible, the general judgment upon that person is what? That this is kufr. If they were already a kafir, it increases them in kufr. Why is it kufr? Because the Prophet informed us it is not permissible to drink alcohol. It is haram, it is sinful, it is impermissible. By saying it is permissible, it's as though they said the Prophet is wrong. What if somebody mistakenly thought that the Prophet said it is permissible? For example, they thought the Prophet said you can drink it in small amounts, or you can drink it on Saturdays. For example, they thought that. Somebody lied to them, and they said the Prophet said this. So they believe in it. That person, are they now believing the Prophet's a liar? No. Are they believing the Prophet is wrong or mistaken? The answer is no. They believe this is what the Prophet said. So even though they are wrong in that, they are not judged as non-Muslims. Okay? There are recordings. You need to listen to it a few times. Need be 7 or 10 times, just to review the case so that you get it well. And we'll review it together as we go forward as well, on more than one occasion. Likewise, if somebody said there's no recommended prayer before Fajr. Why? Because they think that the Prophet never said anything about a prayer before Al-Fajr. Okay, before the dawn prayer, the morning prayer, which is called Fajr. Yes. So for that, remember, I didn't say they're not sinful. They may be judged as being sinful for speaking without knowledge, for not putting enough effort to learn. So they're sinful for that, but they don't become a kafir. Why? Because kufr is not just a label you just apply it to whomever you like. There are rules. The Prophet ﷺ taught us what is kufr and what is not. One of those rules is that if you claim that a prophet of God is not trustworthy or is a liar, then you're not really believing in their messengership, in their prophethood. And this would be kufr. Okay, that one who just embraced Islam yesterday, they think the Prophet taught this. Now they are wrong. The one who told them this is also wrong. And they are sinful. And this person, if they fell short in not checking from whom they are taking their religion, and they're passing judgment without learning and so on, then they are also sinful. And it's potentially an enormous sin, deserving of punishment in hellfire. It's not a light matter. However, they are not judged as a kafir. At the time of our master Umar, radiyallahu anhu, okay, Ibn Abi Shayba, for example, narrates that in his Musannaf, that some people, they thought we have the choice about whether or not to drink alcohol. This is very early on, you see. Many new people embracing Islam. So it didn't reach them that actually the meaning, they misunderstood a verse in the Quran. It didn't reach them actually, look, no, this means Umar radiyallahu anhu and the other companions did not declare them as kafirs for it. As more and more people knew this issue, later on scholars said, if you say this is kufr. Why? Because they said, everybody knows now. Because even Umar said to them, if you go back to saying it is permissible, then I'm, because these are things you can't know with your mind. How would you know? Think about it. How would you know that a woman needs to cover her hair? Just from your mind, just by thinking about it. You can't know. Some people know how to hide her beauty. Okay, what if she's bald? Everything that is lawful and unlawful, halal and haram, you can't actually know it with your mind alone. It doesn't mean it goes against the mind. You can't know it with your mind alone. You can't eat pork, but you can eat lamb, mutton, beef, if the animal was slaughtered in the right way. The pig, even if it was slaughtered in a certain, you can't eat it. How are you going to know that with your mind? And there are wisdoms behind these issues, but you can't know them just with your mind. There is no way for it. Your mind says it could be, and it could not be. Might be, it might not be. Could be this way and it could be that way. With your mind alone, you can't. And they just embraced Islam yesterday. So they can't have known it with their mind. Somebody's misinformed them. They think this is what Islam says. So if you judge them as a kafir, on what basis are you calling them a kafir? What basis would you call them a kafir? You say, oh, they are saying the Prophet is wrong. They're not saying that. They think the Prophet said this. At the same time, which is different, if somebody says something that goes against the intellect, or it goes against the basic testifications of faith, there is no God except for Allah. There is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. Okay? And that Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah. If it goes against that, and even if they just embraced Islam yesterday, okay, this would not be an excuse for them. Because really, like for example, if somebody believes that the Prophet said, you can worship other than Allah, that God has got partners. So they're mistaken, somebody misinformed them. Then we still judge them as a kafir. It's when they embraced Islam. Otherwise, they don't know what they've said. If somebody says, La ilaha illallah, and they think this statement means, how are you? They want to, somebody says to them, how do you say to them, this person here, how are you? Okay, and that person, say, La ilaha illallah. So they say, La ilaha illallah. They're not believing, they're not seeking to embrace Islam. They would not be a Muslim by that. They don't know what they are saying. If they say La ilaha illallah, but then they have a belief that goes against La ilaha illallah, not a Muslim. So here, we'll come back to this rule. I will cover it actually at the end of the chapter. You pulled me a bit more into that. But anyway, that's fine. We'll review it again. So if a person says something to belie the prophets, and in particular, in our case now, to belie Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, something that is confirmed that he said it, whether it's a rule of the religion or about something that happened in the past or will happen in the future, we need to believe in it. We can't be lied. If it's confirmed. If there's doubt about did the Prophet even say this or not, of course, then you can't have doubt. Okay. But if you believe he actually said it, thereafter, you have things that you can know with the mind and things that you can't know with the mind. And related with the things that you can know with the mind are what are mentioned in the basic testifications of faith, i.e., there is no God except for Allah, and that Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah. Alayhi salatu wassalam. That basics. Okay? As long as they're not saying or believing something that contradicts that, that negates that, that cancels that testification of faith. And it's not something that goes against the intellect. According to your intellect, you know that the Creator does not have a beginning. Even though that statement is not mentioned in La ilaha illallah. That literally is just saying there is no God except for Allah. But if you understood what Allah means, i.e., that this is the Creator, you would also know from your mind this is the Creator that does not resemble the creation, who does not have a beginning, who does not have an ending, who is attributed with knowledge, who is free of ignorance and defects. That's part of really the testification of faith. And you can know that actually with your mind. If you go further with it another time, but there are ways you can deduce that with the mind. Those things, if you just embrace Islam and you go against them, then you're not a Muslim. As for all other things that you can't know with your mind, okay, and nobody's told you what Islam says. Paradise, it exists. Can you know that with your mind? Just by your mind alone? Your mind says, yeah, there might be a place called paradise, there might not be. I believe with certainty there is. Why? Because with my mind, I know there is a God, and I know that Muhammad was his last and final messenger. I know that with certainty. I can deduce that through a certain route. Prophets are given miracles, and some of the things that are narrated about prophets are mutawatir, there are numerous chains, etc. We've talked about this, but entire lessons on it in the past. We'll come back to review it again in more detail. But you can know with your mind through certain processes, certain issues. Then I believe in those things with certainty. He was the prophet of God. Thereafter, he told us there is a place called Jannah. I believe in it. And it exists right now. And I believe in that. And it is everlasting. God made it everlasting. And I believe in that. Can I know that with my mind alone, though? All of that? The answer is no. Is that clear? Any other questions up to what's been said? Review any of this information, your notes. If you don't make notes, you've got nothing to go back to. You don't record the lesson for yourselves. I don't mind anybody here recording the lessons for themselves, not for general distribution, for the reason that right now I can see the audience in front of me and I will say things a certain way. And for some audience, I might have not even gone into this level of detail, for example. Anyway, so listen to the recording through the week. least you've got something to go back to, or you've got notes. If you don't, then your situation will be like what some scholars said about a person who goes hunting, but they don't have anything, if you like, to hunt and to catch the prey with. They will see, yeah, I could have got that. Or they go fishing, and they can see the fish. Fish might even come up to the surface, and they've got nothing to catch it with. It's like things just flew through. You heard and many things. I've given the example myself. Sometimes I've reviewed some of my old notes. Handwriting. It's my notes. I've typed it. It's my file. I know this is mine. It's like I never heard that sentence before in my life. And it's rare that when I've made notes that I've not read through it at least a couple of times. But despite that, I don't know, years have gone by. I've read it and it's like as though I never heard that sentence in my life. Ever. Had I not seen it in my notes, I would have said, no way. I would have denied that I've ever heard that issue, but it's in my notes. How many times, in classes like this, the next week comes and you ask people about some things that we talked about the previous week, and it's like gone. And you harm yourselves by that. And I want what's good for you, I want what's good for me. So in this regard, I'm advising you for your own hereafters. Take more care in acquiring the religious knowledge. Yeah, some people will come and say, oh, it's a nice class, I benefited. They might say, yeah, the teacher was knowledgeable, he explained this and this, and okay, I got that. But then you forget it. You harmed yourself by that. It's not just about entertainment and passing time. I'm not saying that there still isn't a benefit. There is. There are benefits, more than one benefit. However, you're massively reducing it. Most of what I learned, among the ways that I was able to retain it, I've not got that much of a good memory. People think so. I've not. I've seen people with good memories. Really. I'm average in memory. Average. I'm not like really weak, but my memory is average. But most things that I can, retain, and if you ask me, I might give you this proof and that proof. How am I retaining that? Me personally, I took it, I made notes, okay, and then I taught. And through teaching, the information that I took, it became more instilled in my heart. So, and I know another person used to come to some classes. I thought he's the weakest in terms of intelligence. Long time ago, this person doesn't come to the classes anymore. To the extent that I thought he has got a mental disability. I used to test a lot more, ask questions. This is maybe 15 years ago. And in this class, he used to always answer the questions. And I thought, my judgment, I said, God, that's skewed, I completely misjudged this brother. He regularly answered the questions. Then weeks went like this. And then I asked him, I said, look, I don't see you making any notes. You just sit there and you listen. And next week, I asked the question, and relatively speaking, and compared to the others, some question he didn't get, but relative to the others, he used to answer right more than anybody else in the class. So I said, look, how are you remembering all of this? He said, I record your lessons, so when I'm walking to college and walking around, I just keep listening to it again and again throughout the week. Even if one of the scholars of the past, his madrasa, where he used to attend religious classes, it was on top of like a hill. And what did he used to do? He used to arrive early for the lesson. So he used to stand on step 1 and review what he took. Stand on step 2 and review what he took. know, would say 70 steps or something, many steps to go. He'd review and review and review and review, force himself to do, he'd get them to the top. Then on the way back, when he finished the lesson, what did he do? Take one step and review, take another step and like that. He reviewed again and again. I think sometimes he said he even wrote things like over and like 1,000 times, again and again. He became a big scholar. A scholar whose students became scholars. Anyway, so put effort more, and he put effort to attend on time. If the teacher is late, okay, you're late, you miss out. The class has already started, for example. Put effort to attend, put effort to encourage other people to attend, review what is given, make notes, okay, make notes, record it, listen to the recording over and over again, etc. This is what will benefit you more. Otherwise, you might end up regretting about missing out on a lot of benefits. Subhanallah. Allah knows best. Yes. Barakallahu feekum. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi